Hello and welcome back. Another week, another 5 chapters of boyfriend material. I'm so excited to be here. One of my favorite times of the week. I relish. So I record these usually like a week before I put it out. So for me, I put out the video last night and then like the next morning I read, and I love my Tuesday mornings curling up on the couch. Today it was really nice because it's raining, so I get to just like enjoy the quiet sounds of rain while like reading such a good book. And like these chapters just felt like the rain added to the ness of it all. Like it was just so enjoyable. And it's one of those things where it's hard because I was like, I could sit here and read probably a whole book. Like, if I had nothing else to do for the day, I try and get myself on a schedule. But I was just like, I was in a very relaxed state reading today. So I was having a great time. But these chapters, again, they're good. What am I gonna say? Something different? No, they were good. But the thing I liked about this week, and I will tell you right now, last week I was talking about how very roller coaster we had ups and we had downs, and we had ups and downs, and it went back and forth. This one, we started on a down and kind of went down. Okay, we went down a little bit further, but like we were already like it was never up high to begin with, so I didn't have to go anywhere, and we just kind of built from there progressively upwards, which always feels good. You don't like getting that like emotional roller coaster, you know, the tumultuousness of it all is a lot, but to just go completely up and up and up is fantastic. I'm in such a good mood because I finished the 5 chapters and I'm feeling good about it. I'm gonna have to go back down and then back up currently for this, but I'm excited nonetheless. We should get into it. Like and subscribe, that would be wonderful. And let's start chapter 31. So, as we know, at the end of the last chapter, he had read this article posted by some dickhead who said he wouldn't write an article about us. Then he did, and it was a little bit of like a shit, just random piece he put up, but also like hit too close to home for Lucian, whether he agreed or not for what was like going on in his life, or whether it was somewhat emblematic of him. It somewhat made points, but also like it was just written for the sake of being written. I reckon if it was a random article not specific about anyone and wasn't by a person who had met the person in the thing and what we know, it'd actually be a very interesting article talking about like, you know, the family members of celebrities and how celebrityism affects people. I think that's very interesting. I thought that like that would be a great piece, how it affects others, like, you know, for the good, for the bad. I think that's actually a very interesting thing in how our modern day society works on him. But knowing that he met Luke and then wrote this piece on him, yeah, feels like crap. And it's hard because I felt like he, you know, sometimes you can just see into people really well, and while Luke has a lot of walls up, you can definitely tell there's a lot going on there. And I feel like he just picked the right bits and knew, and Luke takes it, it's hard, my poor, like, sweet little boy, he's just, like, he wasn't doing well from it. And he's not doing well in this first chapter, I'll tell you that right now, but luckily we have a saving grace. But we'll get to that. Then it came to a soft thunk, like he put his head against the door. And I'm not challenging that. It's just, I know a lot has happened today, and if you're upset about anything, I'd hoped we could talk about it. With a somewhat louder thunk, I put my own head back rather harder than I expected. The sudden jolt of pain felt like it clarified things, but probably didn't. I know you do, Oliver, but I've talked to you too much already. You can never talk to someone too much. Oh my god, Luke. I'm sorry you feel that way, but whatever is going on right now is clearly more than about just me. Maybe, but you're the bit I can deal with right now. And you're dealing with me by having an argument through a bathroom door. I'm dealing with you by telling you this isn't working. Apparently even a fake relationship is beyond me. If you're going to dump me, Lucian, Oliver had become very, very cold. Will you at least do it with my face instead of through 2 inches of plywood? Hiding my face against my knees, I definitely wasn't crying. Sorry, this is what you get. You can't say I didn't warn you. You did, but I hoped you'd think I deserved better. No, I'm that much of an asshole. Now get out of my flat. The faintest of sounds, like maybe Oliver had been about to try to handle and then thought better of it. Lucian, Please don't. Oh, fuck off, Oliver. Wasn't the time. He didn't reply. From my white ceramic cell, I listened to him dressing, heard his footsteps walking away, heard the front door closing behind him. Luke. This hurt. This really did hurt reading. I was just like, what the fuck are you doing? I get it. And I'm siding with Bridget for where we go with this because she is an absolute, stunning the way she handles this. I love it. But we'll get into that. But Luke, it's hard to see someone like deal with this. And we get more into it as we go, but I feel like Luke has been, and self-proclaimed or actually, that doesn't really matter. He has been broken for so long and he has not felt like he deserved anything. And he has been such a strange place in his life that you can just tell he can't deal with the things that are normally happen. He's gotten too pessimistic, too far withdrawn in himself to trust and be there with people. And I feel like when you live in that sad state, not sad judgy, sad actual sad state, even the little things, it sends you off. And we get a more of why he gets set off by certain things, and we know why he gets set off by things. But even this thing, which is very a serious article that would affect him a lot, but just not knowing how to talk to it, not having that proper support group. Even now he rings Bridget coming up, but even then he hasn't been relying on his friends a lot. He hasn't been relying on his family in a while. He just kind of exists and puts it down and builds a new, everything goes wrong, he builds another wall, and it's just not the way he needs to do it. And then he's not used to talking these things over, and he's not used to being with Oliver and just working on these things, and it's hard to see it. I feel bad and I hate it, but I understand. It's hard to understand why people are like that, even though you know how easy other things could be, because it's just I understand that I hate it for you and I wanted to make it better, but it's just such a personal journey to be able to move forward from that. But he rings Bridget because he needs someone to help comfort him, to help him talk through things. But he did ring the right person, and she is really fun. She would be a fun character to play. They're kind of really best friend, really high energy, really loving, but also honest and annoying in the best possible ways. She's a very fun character. We don't get a lot of his other friends, but I'm fine with just having Bridget. It's really good. So he's talking to Bridge, talking about the article. It was worse than a sex story. It was a thought-provoking opinion piece about what a broken victim of celebrity culture I am, written by the guy I failed to pull at Malcolm T's party. What an utter wanker. Wow, that was less consoling than I had hoped it would be. He's right though, isn't he? I'm this half-person wreckage of someone else's fames, who will never have a normal life, or a normal relationship, or... Luke, stop it. I work in publishing. I can spot an articulate, shitty article a mile away. I love how just honest she is. And then they start... Sorry, I'm trying to do this thing and I'm doing it horribly already, where I jump between paragraphs a bit more, because there are good bits in other ones, but I want to keep it flowing, but also I don't have the... smart nature to be able to jump as quick. So they start talking about Oliver and why this why it was a dumb article and how it relates to him and why he would dump him. The article has nothing to do with him. I know, but I tried to assemble my thoughts, which remained stubbornly unassembled. He was nice to me and made me feel safe and maybe not worthless, and I got all soft and happy and shit. And then this happened and I couldn't cope. And it's going to keep happening, and I'm going to keep not being able to cope as long as I'm trying to live like a normal person. Bridget let out a long, sad sigh. I love you, Luke, but that does sound terrible, but I don't think make yourself miserable is the one-size-fits-all solution you think it is. Well, this might be a radical notion. I could always tell when Bridge was making a huge effort not to sound cross with me. I was telling it right now. But did it all occur to you that you could have told him something upsetting had happened, then have a conversation about it? And this is what we are talking about. Since the start of this journey that they've gone together, he just needs to be honest and just like start saying things to Oliver. But we'll get going and then we'll talk about it. You're not a fuck up, Luke. You sometimes do fucked up things, but I mean this in the nicest way possible. I still don't have a clue what you're talking about. I tugged at the ragged edge of my nail with my teeth. I told you, it's everything. I'm not relationships. I can't relationships. Not anymore. There's not a magic formula, she said. It's hard for all of us. You've seen how many times I've messed up. But you can't, but you have to just keep trying. Sliding the rest of the way down the wall, I curled up on the bathroom floor, with the phone tucked against my shoulder. It's not that. It's bigger than that. It's what? It's me. I had that creeping nausea again. That isn't quite about your body. I hate how being with someone makes me feel. That was a little pause. Then Bridge asked, how do you mean? Like I've left the gas on. I'm sort of glad you can't see my face right now, because I still have no idea what you're talking about. I did that thing where I pull your knees and elbows in, and try and get as small till you disappear. Oh, you know, like I'm going to come home one day, and my whole world will have burnt down. Well, she made a pained sound. I don't really know what to say about that. That's because there's nothing you can say. It's just the way it is. Okay, she announced, with the unwarranted confidence of a World War I general, sending his men over the top. I've got things to say. Bridge, no, listen. There's actually a choice here, and the choice is either you never trust anybody again and pretend that stops people hurting you when clearly it doesn't, or don't do that. And maybe your house will burn down, but at least you'll be warm, and probably the next place will be better, and come with an induction hob. I couldn't tell whether Bridget's strategy of distracting me from my problems by being odd was deliberate or not. I think you've drifted from giving me a pep talk to advocating arson. I'm advocating taking a chance on a nice man who you're clearly into and who will treat you well. And if you think that's arson, then yay, arson. I love that. But she's telling, she did the consoling, she did the I'm trying to understand you, and then she did the I'm giving up and I'm fucking telling you how it is, and I love that part of it. She's just like, basically, you gotta fucking try, and living a miserable life is a choice you can pick, but it's gonna suck, and it's going to continue to suck, and you can pretend that you don't care about anything, but it's gonna fucking hurt, and it's gonna affect you, because it always has and it always will. Or you pick the man that you like, and maybe these things won't hurt as much, because you'll be happy and it doesn't matter. Like, I feel like things that are said about you are always gonna hurt, or they're always going to annoy you, always bury under your skin, no matter how small or stupid or dumb. They're always going to, well, to a degree, affect you somehow. It's just the way life is. But whether that effect is positive or negative or actually can hurt you really depends what state in it. Like, when you're sad and feeling bad, everything's gonna feel like worse. You know, a prick from a pin could feel like a gunshot when you feel like shit. But when you're happy and feeling good, like those small things just seem to bounce off you. And I feel like he just hasn't had that taste of happiness in such a long time. He's getting little bits of it, but that still makes him nervous from what he's previously experienced. And he can't he hasn't like been able to jump in yet. And it's that thing where I understand, but I'm just like, you've got to fight, you've got to keep going, you've got to persevere, because then you might have this life that you maybe only ever dreamed of, or don't even admit that you dream of, because you're not admitting that you want like anything good for yourself. And that's hard to see. Obviously, as an audience that cares about their main character, we want him to have this good life, but he's got to realize he wants it himself, like consciously, because I think subconsciously he does, with all this, Oliver, I hate him, but I love him. The back and forth, we can see it there, and we see he wants this sort of life, but he has to actually acknowledge it for himself. I think it really starts. But Bridge and him are forming a plan. Well, kind of a plan, but she's just basically like, and I'll read it out, but like, fucking go and apologize. Basically, go and fucking apologize. And while I got what Bridge was saying about letting him choose whether he wanted to deal with my bullshit or not, I couldn't shake the sense that we'd hit a level of bullshittery that would make the choice a kind of a no-brainer. Because this is what he was getting. Someone who spent 5 years burying himself in cynicism and apathy, and honestly hadn't been so great before that either. I didn't want to be the person for Oliver. I didn't want to lash out or run away every time I thought something might hurt me. But it was going to take more than a month of fake dating and a couple rounds of French toast to dig my way out. It would be easier for everyone if I never spoke to him again. But Bridge was right. He deserved better than easy. And if that meant I had to stand there on his doorstep again and say I was sorry again, I guess I'd do it. And maybe this time I could let him see me. All the ways I was messy and hurt and lost, and all the ways he made me better. Maybe he deserved that too. 20 minutes later, against my better judgment, I was in a cab on my way to Clerkenwell. It's just, it's so, like, and obviously they talk about whether he's gonna want to have you back, and that's right, but I feel like you can just tell Oliver can deal with these things, and especially if given this honesty that we do get to, but the honesty of what could come and in actual communication, these things don't fracture as easily as Luke might believe. Like in a relationship, when you're honest and something bad happens and you talk them through, even I feel like if you crack the absolute shit hits the fan, everything goes wrong, the world's a disaster, you're an absolute mess. If you have been honest of what caused that, they can see that and they know why that behavior is happening, and they can support you and help, or just let you like run amok, but at least they have that, and that's the only like ingredient missing in this recipe that isn't why it tastes good. Why am I doing an analogy? I don't know, but there's such a thing for me, especially feeling very similar to Luke in lots of different ways. And maybe I don't do it in my own life either, and it's easier to preach than do. But it's just that honesty thing. You gotta kind of just say what's happening. And, when you're in a bad mood, just saying why you're in a bad mood just makes all the difference to the person who has to deal with it. But at least he wants to go apologize. At least he's gonna make the effort. Bridge did such a good job to be like, you at least owe it to him to try. To actually try. He needs an apology. Because you have been a dick. And we know he's been a dick. So I'm excited. I know what's happening, but I'm excited to re-go over it with you as we go into chapter 32. So he gets to Oliver's apartment. It started raining, which is like kind of romantic, and added because it was raining when I was reading it too. And he's kind of like, fuck, I can't back out now. He buzzes. Oliver shows up. Seemed like he might have been crying. Definitely emotional. Definitely not happy. Definitely not happy. Well, who would be? Getting broken up with not even face to face. Fake broken up, but also broken up because they both have feelings, and we know that. But is just like, what's going, like, why? Just why, really? Rainwater slithered from the tips of my hair down my face. Oliver, I'm sorry. I'm really sorry. I'm sorry for pushing you away. I'm sorry for losing my shit. I'm sorry for locking myself in a bathroom like an emo teen at a bad party. I'm sorry I suck at apologies. I'm sorry I've been a crap fake boyfriend. I'm sorry I keep showing up on your doorstep begging you to give me another chance. It's not that I don't appreciate the gesture. well, gestures. He was doing the temple rubbing thing that meant he had no idea how to deal with me. But I don't understand why this keeps happening. Honestly, I don't even understand what happened tonight. Which is why, I yelled, brandishing my phone again. I tried to give you context. He glanced at me, to the phone, and back again. You should probably come in. I came in and stood in his hallway, dripping. Neither of us seemed entirely sure what was meant to happen next. Then, Oliver said, why don't you take a moment to dry off? I'll have a look at this article if you're still comfortable with that. I wasn't comfortable with that at all, but having shoved it under his nose, it was a bit too late to back out now. Besides, I was committed to being honest and transparent, and oh, help. Yes, this is what we want. This is what we want from you. We want your honesty, and it's fantastic. And also getting a bit of honesty for us too, because we still want to know more about what's gone on in his life, and there are certain bits that he hasn't revealed to us, which we want to get to even understand him more. Oliver crossed one leg over the other, looking prim and serious. I think what I need you to understand is that even though we are not in an official relationship, we have made a commitment to each other that we are both relying on, and when you behave unreliably, it has real consequences for me, logistically, and he gave a tight little cough, emotionally. This was everything I thought I didn't like about Oliver Blackwood. Severe, stern headmastery, and not in a kinky way, with the faint edge of superiority that suggests he would never flake out or fuck up. But I knew him better now, and I knew I'd hurt him. I realize I've treated you badly, and I realize my many, many issues aren't an excuse for that, and I wish I could tell you this won't happen again, but I can't because I'm worried I will. While I appreciate your honesty, he said, still rather coldly, I'm not sure where that leaves us. I can't tell you where it leaves you, but where it leaves me is I want to give this another go, and I'll try and do better. Lucien, he gave a soft sigh. I really don't want to go to my parents' anniversary, alone to my parents' anniversary, but it's a little late for me to find anybody else now. That wasn't quite the falling back into my arms Bridget had led me to expect. If that's what you need, and that's all you want, I can still do that for you. I think I know you well enough that I could pass as your boyfriend for one party, even if we don't speak until then. What about your work function? It'll be fine, I shrugged. I've got most of my donors back, and I'm starting to think that if they come for my personal life again, I might actually be able to face taking them to an employment tribunal. Oliver was looking at me, his eyes all silvery grey and searching. Why couldn't you before? Because getting fired just felt like something I deserved. And it doesn't now? Sometimes, but not so much. What changed, he asked, with a quizzical look. I groaned. Don't make me say it. Say what? His foot flickering impatiently. You'll still have to forgive me if I'm not at my most... It's one of those words that I can't say. We're skipping. Oliver, you. It was you. You're what changed. And now I've blown it. And I'm sad. He softened for about a second, and then unsoftened abruptly. If I'd been such a positive influence, why on earth did you dump me through a bathroom door over a nothing article in a newspaper framed for its misspellings? I think what you're underestimating here is how much better I can get and still be a complete disaster. But at one point you might not be. At one point you might not be. Except, I'm not sure it's the real problem. I don't know how to promise you I won't overreact, or lash out, or say something I shouldn't. All I can promise, and really think that's what I should be promising, is that I'll be honest with you about what's going on with me. This was hell. I'm pretty sure this was hell. That's what I should have done tonight, and that's why we're here. There was a long silence. It was a 50-50 whether it was a good silence or a bad silence. Finally, Luke, finally, thank you. Honesty. We've agreed that is the obviously, trying not to fuck up or say the wrong thing. That's probably something we also want to work on. Maybe thinking before speaking, and maybe been a little less catty. There are things we could work on. Do not get me wrong. We could work on a couple of things, Luke. I don't think we're all the... But honesty is fantastic. As you're first going on, it's amazing. But Oliver's like, well, you could be a bit honest now, if you'd like, because we need it. And Luke's just like, well, I will, but I'm not good at it. And then Oliver's like, well, this is not going to work. He's like, okay, just let me go to the bathroom and talk to you behind a door because I can't do it face to face. And I understand that. I think it's really smart, and Oliver is great because he lets him do this, because at least, you know, Luke needs to do these baby steps and he can't look him in the eye and he can't talk to him, but at least he has decided that he will try and be open in the weird, like, in a way that he can, you know. It's not even a weird way, it's just a way that works for him. And as long as we get some honesty out and we get some good stuff here, that's the important thing. This, whatever it is that we're having, is the best thing that's happened to me in 5 years. I know it's supposed to be fake, but it's not felt that way for me for, I don't know, a while. And that's, I guess, rearranged my messed upness in ways that are overall really, really good. But I also feel vulnerable and frightened, like, all the time. The door shuttered lightly, which took me a moment to interpret. But then I thought maybe Oliver was sitting on the other side of it, with his back to mine. Lucian, I don't know what to say. Okay, I know I'm jumping in, but I can just imagine a poster for the movie or the series or whatever that's just like one of those ones where you see the door and they're both sitting back to back and you have the apartment and the bathroom. I think that would be a fantastic poster. I'm just saying, like, it would be a really good, like, oh, I think that would be fantastic. Anywho, we go back. You don't have to, just listen or something, of course. So when I saw that article, it brought up all this old stuff that You see, my last boyfriend, Miles, we were together all through university and a little bit after. And I think it was one of those relationships where the stuff that keeps you together at uni doesn't work in the real world. We were sort of going through a rough patch, but I guess I really didn't know how rough, because he went and sold his story, my story, our story, to the Daily, I can't even remember which, for 50 fucking grand. I heard Oliver draw a breath. I'm sorry, that must have felt awful. Pretty much. What I couldn't hack was, I thought when you're in love, you're supposed to be safe, isn't it? You're supposed to be able to do things and try things and make mistakes, and it'll be okay, because you know who you are to each other. I genuinely believed we had that, but he took it and flogged it to the press, and they turned 5 years of my life into a couple of threesomes and that one night we did cocaine at a party in Soho. Thank you for telling me, Oliver whispered through the door. This is clearly very difficult for you, and I appreciate your trust. I should have been done, but somehow I started talking about this shit. I couldn't stop. He met my mum. I told him about my family, my dad, how I felt, what I wanted, what I was scared of. He made it all so ugly and so cheap, and now everyone thinks that's who I am, and half the time I do too. You shouldn't, and I know that's easier to say and harder to believe, but you're far more than pictures and papers, and a couple of sad little articles written by sad little men. Maybe, but it came back to my mum as well. She's gone through enough without the tabloids turning her into a crazy has-been. Miles fucking sucks. Miles fucking sucks. Fuck Miles. Fuck that man. For 50 grand, like, that is a lot of money. Do not get me wrong. But just, like, I feel like it's such a small amount of money to sell out someone you were in love. Like, you would have to believe he was in love at one point. 5 years? Man, you'd have to have been in love at some point. And just, like, I don't know, like, I'm not in a relationship, but for all my friends that I love dearly, because, like, I feel like family's not as, like, it'd be hard, in my mind, in this, what we're talking about, I wouldn't sell out family, that doesn't make as much sense to me, but all my friends, all the friends that I love dearly, and have the best times with, I couldn't imagine something going so bad, that even if we never spoke again, I would sell them out for, like, 50 grand. Like, you know what I mean? Like, obviously we're not in that position where I don't have any famous friends that I could easily go to the tabloids about, but there's not, that just doesn't compute with me. Like, I feel like you have to, you know, look back on it, and even with the anger, you have to work through that yourself, but look back at, like, the good times. You have to remember that. And I feel like if you felt love for someone at some point, to go that far to expose them, so, like, and just, like, show and spin it and make it so bad about them is just horrible. So fuck Miles, that guy sucks. And it was finally like, we knew Miles had sold him out, and we kind of knew these things, but we didn't get this for, like, how much, which really shows a lot. And what it was like, you know, he's like, cocaine and threesomes, and you're just like, it's interesting that it's so hard to see, and I just, like, my heart breaks for him, because I'm just like, obviously there was probably, in 5 years, of course, in 5 years of anyone's life, there are going to be dumb decisions, bad decisions, like, they're just the things you do in life, but there was probably filled with good things that were never even, like, came to light, and Miles would have never told, because he's a piece of shit. Fuck that guy. But it just hurts, but that is the biggest, it's the thing that we should have told him on the train. It's the thing we should have told him ages ago, because I feel like that opens up Oliver's eyes to nearly all of Luke's existence. Everything makes sense. Everything has context. Like, every bit of his meanness, every bit of his apprehensiveness just would click to Oliver after hearing this. And it's basically fantastic that it's finally been said. I felt another ripple through the door. It was weirdly comforting, like he was touching me. I had no idea how difficult it's been for you. I'm so sorry, Lucian. Don't be. Because then I met you. Leaving the bathroom still seemed like a terrifying prospect, but I was coming to the conclusion that waiting wouldn't make it less terrifying. And while Oliver's toilet was way nicer than, say, mine, it hadn't quite sunk low enough that I'd be happy to live there for the rest of my life. I got shakily to my feet, opened the door, and walked straight into Oliver's arms. Yeah, I said a few minutes later, still clinging to him. I probably should have done this the first time round. He gave me a wholesome cotton pajama squeeze. We can work on it. Does that mean you'll have me back? I was treated to one of those intense stares. Do you want to come back? I'm only just beginning to understand how much this is asking of you. No, Oliver, I came to your house at whatever it is in the morning, spilled my guts all over your bathroom floor, just to be so about this. I find it oddly comforting that you're feeling well enough to be sarcastic to me. I risked smiling at him, and he smiled back slowly. I just, my brain is melting. We've gotten through the rough times, thank God, because it just goes up and up from here, and I can be happy and excited again. But just the fact that, and you completely can see it here when he's like, you'll have me back, and I'm like, he's like, do you want to come back? Because I know now how hard a relationship could be to you, what it could mean to you, how apprehensive you can be, and understandably so. And it's just like he's instantly, and that's what I was saying literally just before, he instantly understands nearly everything about Luke that he needs to. Obviously there's like heaps for them to share and learn, but a lot just makes sense so quickly. So quickly he can figure this out. And it's fantastic because he's like, I now know how to navigate it. And Luke's probably feeling better that he got it off his chest. And he, you know, Oliver can understand these things of why he can be completely fucked up at certain times and why he's crazy sometimes. And obviously that doesn't excuse it, but at least it adds this bit of understanding and the honesty. Oh, I love it so much. And now we just go into chapter 33 and then the next two, and things are kind of peachy, and I am overjoyed to have these good vibes going. So they're like, you know, we're talking about what we're doing. We're probably gonna go to sleep, take the day off tomorrow, maybe spend some time with each other, which will be really cute. But, you know, he's just like, oh, I'll tell work that, you know, I had a freak out about an article. You've been through a lot today, he said. There's no need to diminish it. Yeah, but if I don't diminish things, I have to face them at their normal size, and that's horrible. I think it's usually better to face the world as it is. The more we try to hide from something, the more power we give it. Small part, but fantastic part, and I agree with it wholly. Like, you know, if you diminish everything and I feel like you deal with it, you're giving so much more to it than it needs to be. You're putting like energy into it that it doesn't have to exist. And then I feel like if you keep making things smaller and put so much effort into these things, you're not used to something coming at you at full force. And yes, it's good when you have the ability to make things smaller than they need to. Sometimes you have to. It's just a thing that has to. And when you have a lot of things coming at you and you need to diminish a couple of bad things just to keep going, it makes sense. But if you keep doing it constantly all the time, when an unavoidable thing comes at you and it can't be made smaller and it is just full real world shit hitting you, I feel like it makes you really unprepared. And this is coming from someone who really likes to procrastinate, put things off, make things smaller. Then when things happen, they fuck you up so much worse. And I love that it's just like sometimes you just gotta face things head on, and even if they suck, it's just life, and everyone has to deal with it, and shit things happen, but as long as you have those support networks, which we have with Oliver, it's fantastic. But I move on because I can't keep talking about this quote so much because there are so many cute things coming up. You mentioned in the bathroom that our arrangement was no longer feeling quite as artificial as it hitherto had. Are you trying to stop me freaking out by using words you know I'll mock you for using? His eyes met mine across the table. Did you mean it, Lucian? Yes. Was there anything fucking worse than being called out on your own sincerity? I meant it. Can we please go back to what's important here, which is that you actually just said hitherto. As it happens, he continued, adjusting the angle of his mug, I've been having similar thoughts myself. At that moment, I couldn't tell whether I'd been waiting desperately to hear that or terrified I might. But it showed how far I'd come and seriously committed I was to doing better by Oliver that I didn't run away screaming. Now, we jump straight into talking about whether, Luke will be able to trust him. And I love that Oliver is ready to be like, I'm here to provide you assurance, whether our relationship develop quickly, be real, be not real, fake till it's not fake. He's like, I need to be able to tell you that these things, I might not fuck you over. He won't fuck you over. Oh my, that would be the craziest plot twist if that happened. I would probably bawl my fucking eyes out. I want to trust you though. You don't have to. But you can trust that I have nothing to gain and everything to lose by turning our relationship to the public spectacle. I don't particularly need the money, and I've invested more of a decade in a job that relies on my reputation for discretion. I gave him a brittle smile. I'm probably worth a lot more now than my dad's on TV. What are we talking? A couple of mil? My career means far more to me than any sum of money I could reasonably be offered. It took me probably too long to Rubik's Cube my brain to something that could make sense of this. Okay, yes, I see that. And for that matter, he went on, so are you. Well, that was a thing. Thank you. Really. How do we do this? I confess, Oliver had gone a little pink around the ears. I hadn't thought that far ahead. This is new territory for the both of us. I don't want to sound cold feety, but what if we just carried on as you were? You mean, he said slowly, you want us to continue pretending to be in a relationship that we admit feels real to both of us? Wow, trying to do the right thing was hard, and seemed very similar to fucking everything up. I'm worried that if we try to change too much, all at once, it'll go wrong somehow. And then I'll have to let you down. And you'll be on your own at your parents' anniversary, and it'll be my fault. That's kind of you, but I'm not going to put a family party above our relationship. You don't have to. I put my other hand over his. Leaving aside my occasional meltdowns, which I promise I'll learn to deal with, this is working well for us, and will definitely do what we need it to do. Why rush or mess with that? He gave me a, I'm not quite sure who you are, but I like it look. I'm beginning to think you might be better at relationships than you've claimed. I announced, am growing as a person. Perhaps I could also do better. I smiled at him, too tired to care how goofy it was. You don't have to. You're already perfect. They've just been really cute. I mean, like, it's hard to deal with, but I just, the jealousy rises up from me and I want to die inside, but, like, they're so adorable. I like how they're talking, like, Luke has acted like a child for half of this book, and to just have this like sort of grown-up conversation and him starting to think before he speaks and think before he like makes decisions, where he's like, actually maybe let's not just crazily jump into a relationship. We're still like new at this, we're still working things out, I'm still semi MS even though I promised to be honest. Like, let's keep this fake thing going even though it feels real, because it's working. And it will change can be rough for a lot of people. It's just like, if we work on this, maybe things can nicely and progressively lead into a good relationship. And it was just so like a mature thing to say, and it was fantastic. I was like, yes, Luke, this is what we've wanted from you. But Bridget kind of like texts, they like decide to go to bed. Bridget texts, she's like, are you dead? He's like, no, things are like kind of going good. And puts her at ease, and I guess he's probably kind of happy about it, that like things are going that way. So before they go to bed, they're just speaking a bit. You remember that time I pretended I spoke French to impress you? Well, I still can't. He laughed and pulled me into a kiss, which got me not quite onto his lap, but very much lap adjacent. You don't need to speak French to impress me. My heart stuttered, but I still wasn't used to all of this. Intimacy and okayness. What are you eating? I blurted out instead. It looks like spunk with fruit in it. Thank you, Lucien. You always know what to say. Sheepishly, I nuzzled into his neck and was thrilled by the discovery of this. Whatever the opposite of 5 o'clock shadow is, the prickle of hair under my lips, a reminder that I was still here, that we were both here, together. So it's like cold porridge. A lot lighter and fresher, but substantial enough to keep me going through a court case. Also, I can make it at the start of the week and it sees me through until Saturday, which is convenient. I was smiling helplessly at him. Do you put little labels on the jars so you know which it is for which day? No, he gave me a stern look that somehow wasn't stern at all. Bircher is fungiable. Well, if it goes fungiable, you probably shouldn't eat it. He laughed, somewhat indulgently. But hey, I could get used to being indulgent, especially by Oliver. I have no words. Does my smile not tell 1,000 words? I'm loving them. I'm crying. I'm just dying. I'm in love. They're so cute. I want to die constantly. And I'm just so happy. And I hope this trajectory continues, because, and we'll get into the next couple of chapters that we've got to read today. But it's just, everything's going good, and I feel like there's obviously we've got the John Fleming line. I think we've got one more downfall to go. I think Luke, maybe Oliver could have one, but I feel like we've got one more serious fucking thing that's gonna go on, that's gonna, like, be tense between them. I hope not, but I think that's the way it's gonna go. But then I think it's gonna be smooth sailing, and I just want to see them be cute, because I love them. I love and enjoy them so bloody much. But basically, we're just we go chapter 34. We spend the rest of the day with Oliver. We go to work. We're like talking to Reese. He's talking about how, him getting a picture outside Bronwyn's restaurant did really good things. And the place was booked up. And that was really cute because she was like a really fun character. And I really enjoyed the small amount of time we got with her. And then he's like, well, you could go to my friend's glass exhibit. And he's like, are you just like kind of whoring me out to like take photos and press at these people's occasions so they can get good publicity? And he's like, maybe not, but he's like, well, that would be a cool thing to do with Oliver. So he's like talking to Oliver and he's like, we could do this. We're figuring out our weeks together. We're like, oh, we've got Jennifer's party coming up. We've got all these, he's got his court case. When can we do it? And it's just, they're going through like the monotony of life and just organizing things. I think it's so bloody cute and it kills me it's so much, and I love it. Though we do get Mr. John fucking Flemings. This guy is interesting. I am very interested to see where this story goes, but he just sucks. He gives us a ring and he's like, oh, I'm kind of, available to see you at some point. And he's like, really, like, do I want to, but also like, yes, I should. So he's kind of like, what's going on, and he's like, oh, well, we could go somewhere, how about we do it just the two of us? And I'm just sitting there thinking, is that because you got fucking schooled by Oliver last chapters? I'm like, is it because he absolutely shut you down and called you out for the absolute bullshit you were spouting? I'm like, yes, that is probably right, and he knows it and we know it. Without a sensitivity to my needs or love of his own voice, John Fleming talked. I am aware I'm being selfish here. Of course you can bring your partner if that's what you feel you need. Great, a way to make me feel weak and codependent. But the truth is, he hesitated, as if we were sincerely struggling with something. It's not easy for someone like me to admit when I've done wrong, and it'll be much harder in front of an audience. Wait, what? This isn't the kind of conversation we should be having over the phone. He was right, but this was the closest I've ever come to getting anything even halfway real from my father. And I didn't know how not to just grab at it, except I couldn't, because how could I be sure when he wouldn't disappear like a gateway to Narnia at the moment I went looking for him? There'd been a time when I'd wanted this so much, and maybe that made it worth the risk. Or maybe it really, really didn't. Can I think about it? There was a longer than I would have liked pause. Of course you can. I'll send you my personal number. You can contact me on your own terms. Just remember, I'll be here for you until the end. And with that helpful little reminder, he had cancer, John Flemings hung up. So we're deciding it. I could completely have got it wrong, and maybe that when he was like, let's do it. No, he was talking about the one-on-one, because we get two small bits of John Fleming in the one in the next chapter as well, and sometimes I combine them into my mind. But we're kind of like, what's gonna happen? How are we gonna do this? Should we? Shouldn't we? But like, he does have that thing at the back of his mind, and he talks about it. It's the thing of he might not see him again. But we go to the art, we start chapter 35, we go to the art museum, we're having a fun time, we're with our cute boyfriend, we're staying over at each other's houses, and we're just having fun, and we get to spoon, and we get to have that like fun little, even though it's not crazy intimacy, it's that like cute, beautiful intimacy that I think bonds people, which is really nice. Like a cuddle and just like chatting in each other's arms. I think that's like really beautiful. My dad rang. He wants to meet up for some one-on-one father-son bonding. And what do you want? I don't know. That's the problem. I tried to shrug, but it turned into more of a nestle. I told him I need to think about it. Probably wise. Yeah, get me with my probable wisdom. Oliver's fingers drifted smoothly up and down my spine. Do you have any sense which way you're leaning? Not really. It's one of those things where I want to, but I don't want to. Every time I decide to just walk away, I get this little voice in my head saying, he's got cancer, you knob. And I know it'll be an idiot to trust him. I know it's probably going to suck. But I think, shit, I might actually be vomiting a little in my mouth as I say this. but it's something I've got to do. I understand. Of course he did. Of course you do. I can't work out if I feel appreciated or taken for granted. A little of both. I wriggled down and nuzzled into his neck. I mean, I guess I'm taking it for granted that you're going to be amazing, but that doesn't mean that's not amazing. He gave an embarrassed little cough. Thank you. Although, I should add I'm not completely unconcerned. I know I've only met your father once, but I can't say he made a good impression. I don't think he likes you either. I'm sorry I made things difficult for you. Don't be ridiculous. I denuzzled and kissed him instead. You always make things better. And I'm not sure I'd be into anyone John Fleming's actually got along with. Now, the best bit about that, and I don't know if it's like a big thing that people like would say or pick up on or agree with me, but I think the biggest and most interesting thing about that whole like bit I just read out was I understand. Of course he did. Of course you do. That is the first time we've like got this thing where Luke has instantly thought something like nice and like sweet in a way and said the exact same thing to Oliver. I think is so good and so interesting. And with all this honesty talk that we've been going on, he's actually said what he's thinking for once. And not one of his snarky comments or like something. He's just thought it and said it. But it wasn't one of those crappy speak before thinking made a mistake. It was just pure and honest and cute and sweet. And it was of course he did. Of course you do. It was just, it felt good, and to know, it's just, I don't know, it's the character progression that's just getting me, and I'm loving it so much. Even so, I fear I burned a bridge that didn't have to be burned. It was a ship bridge, Oliver, and I'm still not completely sure which side of it I want to be on. I'm sure you don't need to be told this, he said, after a moment, but there's a chance you could be hurt again. I twisted my head, gazing up at Oliver with a sort of intensity you could only really get away with when you're both in bed and mostly naked. It's a very good chance, isn't it? Again, I'm rather stating the obvious here, that I don't want you to be hurt. I'm not mad keen on it myself. I guess I just feel like I'm in a place where even if it goes wrong, it'll be okay. Like it won't utterly wreck me. He gave me a slightly crooked smile. Strangely reassuring. It's strangely reassuring and strangely fantastic. I love it. I love that he's in this point where he's like, maybe everything won't fucking destroy because he's got Oliver. He realized he has his friends. It is that progression of he was living in a purely, sad and disastrous world of his self and the way he saw everything, and now that he's kind of happy and he's with Oliver and he's enjoying it and he's talking to Bridget and his friends and work's going well and things are looking up and he's realizing maybe he could have this like beautiful life. He's like, maybe I will cope, and even if it comes at me fully and head on and I don't diminish it, I can still deal with it. I think that is just the best thing to hear him admit and say, and it's just fantastic. But they keep talking a bit more about going to, oh my god, what's her name? It was a J name, Jenny, someone, I should look for it. Anywho, they're going to one of his friends' birthday parties. Oliver's like wrapping a gift and he's like, oh, who am I going to, what am I going to talk to these straight people about? And he goes back on this crusade against straight people and how to deal with them. And he's like, I can't talk sports. And he's like, don't worry, they don't like sports either. Oliver's like, just, by the way, they're my friends. They will be happy if I'm happy. Just chill out. And then Luke's even more worried because he's got to impress his friends. But I feel like Luke does do the overthink, but it's cute because he wants to impress them. But the way he's freaking out, he's just like, what do I talk to straight people about? Like, he can't just talk about literally anything. As like, there's lines for all groups of people. Just keep it chill and casual. Talk about work. Talk about what's going on. Talk about what you like to do. Talk about Oliver. Like, that's all. Like, it's just so cute how he is freaking out because it doesn't feel as scary freak out. It feels like a nice freak out. I sighed. Fine. I'm being silly. You are, but explicably so, and you have been rather charming about it. I think I admitted I'm fixated on the straight thing because these people are important to you, and I don't want to fuck this up. The way I see it, it was Oliver's gravest voice, so I braced myself for an onslaught of sincerity. Either you won't, which will be nice, or you will, which will be funny. I burst out laughing, and then, pushing the beautifully wrapped hippos gently aside, I leant over the table and kissed him. How good of it, like, he's just like, Oliver's at that point where he's like, you know, if you fuck up, it's not going to be that, well, depends how badly he fucks up, but he's like, it's just going to be funny, we can laugh about it, hopefully it goes really well. Her name might have been Jennifer, I still can't remember, I didn't look, I'm sorry, but we'll get to that. I'm really interested to see, like, there's so much left, and I feel like only half the book left, and we have to go to her birthday, we have to do the Beetle Drive, we have to finish up the John Fleming storyline, we have to go to Oliver's parents' anniversary. There's 4, like, the first one, the birthday party, isn't as big, but there's still a lot of big things we have to do, and there's, like, so much time, like, it's wrapping up the books, like, you know, we're really getting through it, and I'm scared, and I want to see it, and I'm scared again, because I know there's probably going to be one big scary thing that happens, but I'm so excited because they're on this upwards trajectory, and I'm so happy, and they're being so cute, and they're being honest, which is all I've wanted this whole... Everything's coming up the way I wanted it to. I'm so like giddy and happy about it. I was reading the whole time, well, for the last couple of chapters, I was just so excited that they were just getting along and things were going well. I was so happy. It's a good time. It's a good vibe. I was literally thinking, I think I could read, if these books all continue to be similar in the way of, like, Red, White, and Royal Blue, boyfriend material, if they are all going to be really good reads, really cute gay romance stories, have characters that I can definitely, like, identify and feel connected to and love, to enjoy the love that they show, I think I could read cute little gay romance books forever, because they've just been so much, like, I'm enjoying it so much. I'm like reading it, I'm enjoying reading, I'm even finding that I'm like, I want to read more, which is, I'm not the biggest reader, but I'm like getting back into it with this, and I'm just like, I want to read more and continue reading. And I'm like, do I pick up a book on this? Do I pick up a side book? I'm like, is that like something that I wouldn't want to read for this, but something that maybe just can give me that itch to keep reading. But it's just, I'm having a great time. I'm so happy we're doing this book club and this book. I'm loving these two. Loving Oliver, loving Luke. I'm going to talk in circles forever because I could gush about them. But I'm having the best time. I hope you are too. I hope you're enjoying coming along, reading along with me. Let me know. Did you love these chapters too? Are we loving the honesty? Are we loving Luke's journey? No spoilers because I'm scared there's what's to come, but I feel like something bad it will come eventually in these next chapters. But for now, it's a great time. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed and are having the best day, and I hope to see you in the next one.